At exactly 10:04 p.m. on March 30th, 2023, San Antonio rapper BTB Savage posted these photos on X, trolling one of his dead ops. But before 1:35 a.m., he's shot dead in retaliation. And believe it or not, that's not even the most disturbing way things have ended for a rapper, because there's still the tragic case of Da G Money and Lil Peep. So, let's go over a few of them. Starting off with the disrespectful murder of Florida rapper XXXTentacion, who got smoked barely hours after stepping out of the bank with a chunk of $100 bills.
We don't need rent. You don't have a molested crime. Any posts?
That was the moment cops found XXX gunned down in his car. Time was about 4:51 p.m. and the date was June 18th, 2018. Just a few hours earlier, Tentacion had woken up that morning like every other day, playing League of Legends with his friends, a game he really loved, and later spent some time in the studio, working on music, tweaking on the drums for a track called Glass Shards. A few hours later, he heads over to Riva Motorsports, a motorcycle dealership in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Checking out bikes was something he enjoyed, so this wasn't out of the ordinary. But on the way there, in his $150,000 Beamer i8, XXX stops over at a Bank of America branch on Coconut Creek and withdraws $50,000 in cash. He actually wanted to take out $250,000, but the bank didn't have that much available. So after grabbing that cash, he stacks them all up inside his Louis Vuitton bag and carries it with him for the rest of the day, or rather, remaining hours of his life. Now, when he arrives at the motorcycle dealership, XXX browses through the place for a while, not realizing that he's being watched. 4 men had arrived 10 minutes after him. Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, Trevon Newsom, and Robert Allen are out looking for someone to rob, and they spot him. All the way back from when XXX left the bank. They likely recognized him as a high-profile figure living in the area and possibly carrying a lot of cash, so they decided to grab a few bands for themselves. At around 3:30 p.m., two of the perps, Dedrick Williams and Robert Allen, enter the dealership, even making eye contact with XXX as they walk around aimlessly, while Michael Boatwright and Trevon Newsom lurked around outside like fools. At exactly 3:55 p.m., XXX leaves the dealership in his black BMW i8. An SUV driven by Williams suddenly swerves in front of his car and blocks him from leaving. Two masked men, Boatwright and Newsom, jump out with guns and approach his driver's side window. They demanded the bag, but XXX refused and even tried to grab one of their weapons. They eventually wrestled the bag out of him. And even though the robbery was over, Boatwright looked XXX in the eye and shot him many times, including a fatal shot to the neck that probably got his aorta, causing massive internal bleeding. The attackers then sped off in their SUV, leaving XXX slumped in his car, unresponsive. Police nearby eventually get to the scene, but the response was slow, because some thought he was already dead. They rush X to Broward Health North as a level 1 trauma patient, but about an hour later, doctors pronounce him dead at 4:51 p.m. This kid was just 20 years old. The news devastated fans and the entire hip-hop world, with Tentacion's music gaining millions of streams in the months that followed. In 2022, Allen takes a plea deal, pleading guilty to second-degree murder and agreeing to testify against the others. Their trial started in February 2023, and after a month of evidence and 8 days of deliberation, the jury finds Boatwright, Williams, and Newsom guilty, with each receiving a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole. Boatwright in particular got 2 life sentences plus an additional 30 years, while Allen, due to his cooperation, received only 7 years plus probation in May 2023 and was released by October of this same year. But on September 9th, 2017, 10 months before X's death, the city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana had no idea that within the next 24 hours, it's going to lose one of its most promising hip-hop artists.
Baton Rouge police are looking into a deadly shooting that claimed the life of a local rapper. Police say someone shot and killed 22-year-old Garrett Burton on Dallas Street around 1.
At the time, G Money, a frontliner for TBG, Top Boy Gorilla Gang, was knee-deep in beef with Youngboy and his Never Broken Again crew. Then, about a month or two before his death, G told Say Cheese in this interview that he'd smashed Youngboy's sister a while back, and said YB started tripping about it after he blew up and went Hollywood.
Not really. He mad about his sister too, though.
About his sister?
Yeah, I had a long time ago.
After that, G drops a diss track called Industry, where he goes hard on Youngboy and his sister, increasing the drama on social media, with the rivalry between TBG and NBA getting uglier. Fast forward to 24 hours before his death, G-Money and his girlfriend Shara started their day by moving stuff into their new 4-bedroom home, a spot they just picked as Shara was pregnant, and they needed more space. Around 7 p.m., G and Shara met up with Wingstop, where they both spent time together, catching up about their day. But after that, G makes a move that would change everything, because instead of heading back home with Shara, he decides to go record a feature for a song. So Shara heads home and G rolls over to the studio on Dallas Drive, linking up with his close friend Fat Chapo. Meanwhile, some dudes are already plotting on how to murk him that night. How they got to his location is still debated. Some say he was followed, since he hit that studio a lot. Others thought the shooters figured it out because of this video posted online showing G and Fat chopping it up. Either way, his ops had his location, and G even calls his mom that night, not knowing it's going to be the last time she's going to get to hear his voice. Around 1 a.m. on September 10th, Fat Chapo and G-Money decide to head home. But while G walks out the door, Chapo heads back to grab a few things. And that was the dreadful moment a loud bang went off outside. The studio music was blasting, so Chapo didn't immediately realize it was a gunshot until he went out, heard it again, and ran back in to grab his gun. Not knowing how many shooters are outside or where they're lurking, Chapo had to wait it out until the shot stopped, and when he finally heads out, he sees G-Money bleeding out on the ground. He calls 911. Dispatcher walks him through what needs to be done while waiting for an ambulance. Time is slipping, and Chapo's ready to throw G in the car himself, but the dispatcher tells him not to, because moving him can make it worse. Another 15 minutes pass, and Chapo's done waiting. But just when he's about to load up his boy and drive to the hospital, police arrive, and instead of letting Chapo take him, they put everyone in police cars while investigating and waiting for EMS. Chapo immediately calls Shara and tells her that G'd been shot, and keep in mind that at this time, G was still alive, fighting for his life. Shara sped to the studio, panicked, but cops aren't letting her near him. She calls G's mom, who's already gone to bed, asking her to come down to this scene now. Sadly, by the time she does get there, police hand her over his jewelry and tell her that her son's time of death was 1:45 a.m. Oddly enough, there were 2 pillows at the scene, and word on the street is that NBA affiliate Ben 10 allegedly threw him at G, mocking him as he got hit, saying,
"Go to sleep."
But 2 years later, NBA Ben 10's brother, NBA Lil Peep, got arrested for being involved in G's murder. Lil Peep was then charged with second-degree murder. However, after cutting a deal with the feds, he pleads guilty to a lesser charge of accessory after the fact of murder, a non-violent charge carrying up to 5 years. So right now he's serving time while doing a 3-year federal bid for a gun charge he caught in 2023 while awaiting trial.
Gathering tonight in Germantown to remember the late hip-hop artist PNB Rock. The 30-year-old was killed Monday at a Los Angeles restaurant.
A man with a gun came up to his table and demanded the jewelry he was wearing. Witnesses say Rock argued with him. They say the robber shot him several times, removed his valuables, ran outside, and got away.
In 2022, PNB Rock also lost his life to some crazy violence. And his final hours were just as messed up as you'd think. At 12:28 p.m., September 12th, 2022, just a few hours before his death, PNB Rock and his girlfriend, Stephanie Sibawang, rolls up to the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles on South Los Angeles. Now at first, fans thought it was the Instagram story Stephanie uploaded, tagging their location, that might have put Rock on the radars of his ops. Turns out though, it wasn't the case at all, because even his eventual killer never even knew he'd been inside that spot. Now as you can see in this surveillance footage, the moment Rock and his girl walk in, a man in a red shirt identified as Tremont Jones clocks him and fist bumps the rapper. The dude knew who he was and noticed PNB was rocking hundreds of thousands worth of jewelry. So right after Rock is seated at the table, Jones posts up outside Roscoe's, waiting for another man named Freddie Lee Trone, who eventually pulls up in a black Enclave, and they immediately began hatching a plan to stage a robbery. Meanwhile, Rock and Steph are inside, waiting on their food for 40 minutes because of some unexplained delay. But eventually Jones left, drove off, and then comes back with his son, masked up and strapped with a handgun. Surveillance cameras catch when Trone drops his son a little down the street from the restaurant, and then the moment he walked in. Once inside, the shooter demanded Rock hand over his jewelry, and just seconds later, shots rang out. PNB's hit, and the shooter immediately snatches his chains. He then turns the gun on Stephanie, threatening to kill her unless she gave up her watch. But at that moment, PNB shoved her under the table, trying to protect her. The whole thing goes down shortly after 1 p.m., and by 1:59 p.m., PNB Rock is pronounced dead after being rushed to a local hospital. Thanks to that surveillance footage, all three involved, Trone's son, Freddie Trone himself, and the man in red, Tremont Jones, got hit with charges. Freddie Lee Trone ends up with a 31 to life sentence. His son, who's about to turn 20, is still facing a murder charge in juvie court, while doctors figure out if he's mentally competent to stand trial. And as for Tremont Jones, he dodged the murder charge but got convicted of 2 counts of second-degree robbery and 1 count of conspiracy to commit robbery, getting 12 years behind bars.
A 30-year-old man and his 5-year-old daughter were murdered at a car wash in the Fort Worth suburb of Forest Hill.
U.S. Marshals just arrested a second suspect in the shooting deaths of rapper Money Lil Ronnie and his 5-year-old.
Before 11 a.m. on Monday, March 3rd, 2025, 30-year-old Lil Ronnie gets caught lacking while still at a car wash on Forest Hill with his daughter. Just a day earlier, Ronnie, real name Ronnie Chucky Smith, had moved from Crowley to Forest Hill so he could celebrate his daughter Armani's birthday. Forest Hill was where Armani went to school. Forest Hill's where Armani went to elementary school and cheered with the Safari Sports Squad. But just a few hours after the birthday celebration, her mom drops her off with Ronnie while he's at the wash, literally just minutes before gunfire breaks out. Surveillance footage shows 2 black men wearing jeans and a gray sweater stepping out of the Kia and walking up to Ronnie's car, which is parked in one of the bays at the wash. Then out of nowhere, the dudes start letting off shots. Ronnie tries to run, but he gets hit and goes down right there. Armani was still in the maroon Challenger when the bullets started flying, and tragically, she gets hit and killed as well. Fort Worth police later find that white Kia Rio at an apartment complex and get a video of 2 men dressed just like the shooters pulling up there a few minutes after the hit. Not long after, cops arrested 21-year-old Jacoby Russell and 24-year-old Adonis Robinson, both from Fort Worth. It was Robinson's girlfriend who gave him up, as she was seen driving off in that same Kia. And when police pulled her over and questioned her, she tells investigators Robinson borrowed her car after dropping her at work. They even find his ID inside that car. So right now, both men are sitting at Tarrant County Jail. No motive's been confirmed yet, but the streets are talking and their message is clear. This might have been deeper than just a random hit, but not every rapper's death comes from a street beef. Sometimes it's straight up jealousy. A good example, the case of Atlanta rapper Trouble. June 5th, 2022, 34-year-old Mariel Samant Orr, better known as Trouble or Scoob, was a well-known Atlanta rapper whose life was cut short when he fatally got shot during a home invasion at the Lake St. James apartment complex in Conyers, Georgia, about 25 miles east of his hometown, Atlanta. In the disturbing hours before the shooting, Trouble had gone over to spend the night at a woman's apartment, but while they're in bed together, her ex, 33-year-old Jamichael Jones, breaks in and starts physically assaulting her. The two had just split a week earlier after she claimed he was abusive, and that night, as Trouble tried to pull Jones away, things escalated, with Jones pulling out his gun and shooting Trouble in the chest. Around 3:20 a.m., Rockdale County Sheriff deputies are called to the scene, and that's when they find Trouble on the ground with a single gunshot wound. He's immediately transported to a hospital, where he eventually died. Jamichael Jones then turns himself in on June 7, 2022, in Clayton County, and is hit with heavy charges like felony murder, aggravated assault, home invasion, battery, second-degree criminal damage to property, and possession of a firearm during a crime. But on March 21, 2025, he takes a plea deal and only pled guilty to voluntary manslaughter, which pissed a ton of Trouble's fans. But either way, he's sentenced to 20 years in prison with credit for time served.
New details in the downtown shooting near FedEx Forum that killed Memphis rapper Say So P and injured Houston rapper Sauce Walka. Memphis police say murder suspect Jaden Dandridge was found dead.
It's March 22, 2025. Sauce Walka and his TSF artist, Say So P, are out in Memphis, turning up for a party that rolled on until around midnight, with Walka posting photos and videos of them flying out to Memphis, hitting the party, and chilling at a Memphis club with YTB Fat. However, at around 2:42 a.m., right after they left the club, some dudes came out with guns, blowing the whole place up. According to the video footage obtained by TMZ, 27-year-old Say So P, real name Latorian Hunt, and Sauce Walka are outside the Westin Hotel by the FedEx Forum in downtown Memphis, the same spot where the NBA's Grizzlies play, when those dudes, as you can see, start letting off shots. Walka and Say So are hit, but while Walka makes it to the hospital and survives with just a leg injury, Say So P is pronounced dead at the scene. A second video from this scene pops up online showing Say So near an emergency vehicle with police lights flashing all over. The clip shows a bunch of squad cars and ambulances pulling up to the chaos, yet probably the most disturbing clip of this incident was the one showing one of the shooters, 21-year-old Yungeen Ace, exiting the stolen car used for the hit. Now, Say So P didn't make it, but Walker pulled through, and when folks asked if he planned to slide for Say So, here's what he had to say.
If I wanted to, I could have 500 different by snapping my finger in retaliation to what happened to me. I can't retaliate because that's not righteous.
Basically, Sauce Walker makes it clear he's not gonna avenge Say So P's murder. And that didn't sit right with some fans, feeling like he's not being a real brother to Say So. But here's the twist. Somebody else clearly handled business because just 5 days later after Say So's death, Yungeen Ace, the dude who we said was one of the shooters, turned up dead in this abandoned warehouse with multiple gunshot wounds. Damn. And get this, he wasn't found in Memphis, where Say So got killed. Nah, his body's discovered in Houston. And that right there got people thinking something underground went down, like maybe Danridge got brought to Houston to be executed. Either way, there's still one more dude out there, 22-year-old Kevin Brown. Cops got a warrant out for him on first-degree murder, attempted murder, using a gun during a dangerous felony, and theft of property. But let's be real. Some people think Say So's homies will get him before the cops do. And if that happens, we all know how that story ends. Next up is Tupac Shakur, whose final hours alive are probably the most disturbing of any rapper to ever exist. And we all know the story, no doubt. But those hours leading up to his death? Nah, nobody ever really talks about that one. Cause you see, 24 hours earlier, Tupac was at Lacey Street Studios in LA filming the music video for his track Toss It Up. They wrapped production after 11 p.m., and from there the plan was to get some rest because the next day was all about Vegas. There are two big reasons for that trip. First, his close friend Mike Tyson had a heavyweight fight scheduled against Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand, and weeks earlier, Tupac had promised Suge Knight he'd be there to support Tyson. And even though something about that trip didn't feel right to him, Tupac was a man who kept his word. His fiancée at the time, Kadada Jones, the daughter of music legend Quincy Jones, later recalled that Tupac had this uneasy feeling all day. He tells her straight up that he doesn't want to go to Vegas, but he goes anyway because he gave his word. His girl planned to join him in the city but not attend the fight because Tupac didn't want her in that type of environment. Maybe that was his way of protecting her, considering the vibe he had, right? The second reason now for the trip, though, was to celebrate the birthday of Tracy Robinson, a business partner of Tupac. Now, behind the scenes, Tupac's already under pressure. He's dealing with tension within the circle, especially within his own crew, the Outlaws. He wanted to stay in California and sort out the problems, but ended up being convinced to go through with the Vegas trip, and that decision would turn out to be tragic. September 7th, 1996, the day finally came. From the start, the energy felt off, even though Tupac was packing. Now, he's usually wearing a bulletproof vest everywhere he goes, given his lifestyle and ongoing beefs. But that night, he chose not to bring it. Kadada said it was like he already knew something was about to happen. But nonetheless, on the drive to Las Vegas, Tupac stops at a gas station convenience store and, oddly enough, bought only gun magazines. By 7:51 p.m., Tupac and Suge head up to the MGM Grand Garden Arena for Tyson's fight, surrounded by their entourage. Tyson makes quick work of Seldon, ending the match in the first round with a knockout. And man, Tupac's thrilled, rushing down to congratulate Tyson as he leaves the ring. They hug and smile, completely unaware that within hours, tears would replace those smiles. And here's a clip of Tupac celebrating right after that fight.
Everybody go to jail, come out, they got good luck.
But just minutes later, things take a turn. In the MGM Grand Lobby, Tupac, Suge, and their crew are caught on surveillance camera attacking Orlando Anderson, a known gang member. The beating was brutal. Anderson ended up with a dislocated shoulder and had to be hospitalized. But keep in mind now that this wasn't a random scuffle. It tied back to a bunch of deadly feuds surrounding Death Row Records. You got that famous East-West Coast tension, Death Row against Puff Daddy's Bad Boy Records, that had Tupac beefing with Biggie Smalls. And then there was the Street Wars. Suge was affiliated with the MOB Pyru Bloods. who were at odds with the Southside Compton Crips. Reports later said that Orlando Anderson was allegedly involved in snatching a death row chain from a member of Suge's crew, and that chain snatching incident set the whole stage for what happened at the MGM Grand Lobby. Anderson supposedly even had the nerve to wear that stolen chain that night. And according to Orlando's childhood friend, BG Knockout, a member of the Nutty Block Crips, that fight was payback in an ongoing war. Anderson himself had already been shot in both kneecaps a year earlier for the same feud, forcing him to relearn how to walk. But after that fight, Tupac and Suge returned to their hotel. Tupac tells his girl what happened and warns her,
"Something's up. You stay here."
He changes into sweats and a basketball jersey, meets Suge in the lobby, and gets ready to head out for the night. Here's a video of Tupac on that jersey, chopping it up with fans outside the hotel. Now keep in mind that Tupac's crew kept telling him to put on his bulletproof vest like usual, but Tupac's refusing, saying it was too hot. By 11 p.m., the two leave Suge's house, heading for the Club 662, a spot they'd hit up plenty of times before. However, before leaving, Tupac makes a split-second call that may have sealed his fate. His bodyguard, Frank Alexander, was about to hop in a Suge's Beamer when Tupac tells him instead to drive a Lexus carrying the Outlaws. Tupac said that he wanted Frank to be the designated driver since the crew planned to drink heavily at the club. And while on the way, Tupac was spotted at a spotlight by UCLA film student Leonard Jefferson, who snapped what would become an iconic photo, the last image of Tupac alive. At that same time, Orlando Anderson and his uncle, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, along with two others, are cruising in a white caddy looking for revenge. By chance, they saw Tupac on the strip, laughing, vibing, hanging out the car window. So they immediately made a U-turn and started following him. And when Tupac and Suge stopped at a red light, two women in another car pull up on their left, flirting and chatting with them about heading to Club 662. Meanwhile, the car with Tupac's bodyguard was behind him, and two other vehicles from the crew were in front. And that's when the white caddy pulls up on the right, boxes them in. So at 11:17 p.m., Orlando Anderson opens fire on Suge's BMW. And as Suge tries to shield Tupac, who's scrambling to hide in the back seat, it's a second too late. 4 bullets hit him. One pierced the hand and finger, another tears through his thigh, ricocheted into his abdomen, and lodged into his pelvis, and another punctures his chest, lodging in his lung. Suge is grazed in the head, but survives. He speeds off, racing towards the hospital, while the Cadillac vanishes into the night. And here's what the media don't tell you. After getting shot, Tupac was still conscious, even cracking jokes despite the pain. But a few minutes later, he tells Suge he wasn't sure he was gonna make it. And their car eventually stopped at Las Vegas Boulevard in Harmon, where police swarmed the scene. Suge begged the cops to help Tupac. But Tupac, who always talked about his hatred for the cops, told one to f off. He subsequently rushed to the University Medical Center in critical condition, where doctors remove his right lung in a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding. But the damage was too severe. He's placed on life support and put into a medically induced coma. And yet, while fighting for his life, death row affiliates kept guard, because they were receiving death threats. And strangely, there was little security provided. But then on September 13th, his mother, Afeni Shakur, and his aunt, Gloria Cox, arrived at the hospital. By then, Tupac's kidneys are failing, and doctors had to resuscitate him 3 times. So at 4:03 p.m., Afeni makes the heartbreaking decision to let her son go. And Tupac is pronounced dead at just 25 years old.
Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G., one of the greatest rappers of all time, was suddenly gone on March 9th, 1997, ambushed in the streets of Los Angeles during a visit.
The tragedy happened here outside of the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, where the rapper, also known as Biggie Smalls, was attending a Vibe magazine party for the Soul Train Award.
It's March 9th, 1997. At about 12:30 a.m., Christopher Wallace, better known as the Notorious B.I.G., leaves an after-party with his crew in 2 green 97 Chevy Suburbans. They're headed towards Steve Stout's home in Hollywood Hills. But unfortunately, Biggie's gonna lose his life a few minutes later. Now, this all happened just weeks after he'd been in LA back in February '97 to promote his second album, Life After Death, and shoot the music video for its lead single, Hypnotize. His debut album, Ready to Die, released back in 1994, had sold millions, sparking this intense rivalry with West Coast icon Tupac Shakur. Biggie's music, known for gritty street narratives, wasn't just entertainment. This guy was rapping about the life he lived. Raised in a tough Brooklyn neighborhood, Wallace had many run-ins with the law long before fame found him. Even after achieving superstardom, trouble didn't leave his side. In the summer of '96, police discovered marijuana and firearms at his New Jersey home, leading to his arrest. He would even make headlines for allegedly beating 2 fans with a baseball bat. So there's no doubt Biggie wasn't just talking tough, but a certified OG. But his death ultimately became the darkest chapter in the bitter East Coast-West Coast rap feud. 2 nights before his death, March 7th, Wallace appears at the '97 Soul Train Music Awards to present an award to Toni Braxton, where some audience members actually booed him. The following morning, he had plans to fly to London, but instead, on the evening of March 8th, he showed up with a Bad Boy Records entourage at a high-profile after-party. The events thrown by Vibe Magazine, Quest Records, and Tanqueray Gin at the Peterson Automotive Museum in LA's Carthay Circle neighborhood. The guest list was stacked. Faith Evans, Queen Latifah, Aliyah, Chris Tucker, the Wayans Brothers, Genuine, Irv Gotti, and over 1,000 more celebrities. So by around 12:30 a.m., fire officials shut down that party early, citing overcrowding, heavy smoke, and loud music. Wallace leaves in the front passenger seat of one Suburban, riding with his close associates, Damian D. Rock Butler, Junior Mafia member Lil Cease, and driver Gregory G. Money Young. Sean Puff Daddy Combs would follow in the second SUV alongside some other Bad Boy Record associates. Now, just 15 minutes after the party was shut down, around 12:45 a.m., traffic around Wilshire Boulevard and South Fairfax Avenue was packed, with partygoers spilling out of the museum. Biggie's SUV came to a stop at a red light about 50 yards from the venue. And suddenly, a dark-colored 94 to 96 Chevy Impala SS pulls up beside him. Behind the wheel would be a black male dressed sharply in a light blue suit and bow tie. The man rolls down his window, aims a 9mm pistol, and fires 6 shots, bang, into Biggie's vehicle, with 4 hitting the rapper. His team rushes him straight to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, where doctors perform an emergency thoracotomy. But it's too late. At just 24 years old, Christopher Wallace, the notorious B.I.G., was pronounced dead at 1:15 a.m. It's one thing for a rapper to face chaos in their final hours. It's entirely different and far more heartbreaking when it happens just hours before recording a life-changing song with a global artist. And sadly, that was exactly the case for Alabama rapper Doe B. At just 17, Doe B got shot while sitting in his car, leaving him injured in one eye, which later becomes his trademark look. However, this doesn't make him less dedicated to his music career. And with viral hits like Let Me Find Out, his name was buzzing as the next big one to put Alabama on the map in the rap game. And right there, that would catch the eye of Atlanta superstar T.I., who signs Doe B to Grand Hustle Records, opening up the door to a major deal with an industry giant, Interscope Records. Like, getting signed to Interscope is a dream for almost every up-and-coming rapper. And for Doe B, everything seemed to be just lining up perfectly. His dreams were finally turning into reality. But on December 28, 2013, it all came crashing down. Just 8 hours before his death, on December 27th, Doe B's on the phone with T.I. talking about the opportunity of a lifetime. The plan was to fly out to Miami for a studio session with T.I. and Pharrell, another legend in the industry, to work on a collaboration. They'd already agreed on the flight. Everything was set. Doe B would have been in Miami that day, but his big heart got in the way. He decided to stay behind to show love at a birthday party for a young woman named Kim. So that night, he's performing at Kim's birthday party, and Doe B runs into people he had issues in the past with, leading to this argument. And around 1:30 a.m. on December 28th, those ops spray the place with bullets, hitting several people, including Doe B and a close friend, Rick Dogg, who tried to shield him. The birthday girl was also hit, but to her luck, she survived. However, Doe B and Rick Dogg didn't make it.
40-year-old Montrell Burley is accused of killing Darrell Gentry, the rapper better known as BTB Savage.
That rapper known as BTB Savage was killed in a drive-by shooting 2 weeks ago.
On February 3rd, 2023, rapper Darrell Gentry, better known as BTB Savage, made a choice that would ultimately trigger a chain of events leading to his brutal death. Now that day, another artist reached out, asking Savage for a feature on his track. They talked about working together before, so this time, Savage agreed. And the plan was for this artist to pull up that Friday night, bring the money for the feature, and record at BTB's place so they could kick off the promo. It was pretty late, around 10 to 11 p.m., which made Savage hesitate because he wasn't sure about doing business at home that late. Chilling with his girlfriend at the time, he asks her if he should let him come over or just wait until the next day to hit a real studio. But she didn't mind them coming over. So they did. Now, things didn't go exactly as planned because BTB Savage missed a couple of red flags in this whole agreement. The guy asking for the feature had an answer for every concern Savage raised, like when BTB said he didn't have recording gear at the crib, the artist goes, "No problem, we'll bring our own." Then when the artist showed up, he comes with a bunch of dudes, which isn't really unusual since rappers roll around with a crew or security, but in this case, the moment that artist stepped into his house, he started scoping the place out in a way that just didn't feel right. Yet BTB Savage let it slide once again. But this artist's next move set off his instincts. He and his crew brought in this studio box and started pulling out equipment, playing the part like everything was normal, right? Then they suddenly acted like they forgot about something and said that the artist needed to go back to the car and get it. Now the artist's uncle, who's there, would request to go get it instead, but this artist demands that he go himself. And that's when Savage knew that something felt wrong, because why not send your uncle instead, right? And so, once the artist steps out, Savage locks the door, and at that point, it was just Savage, his girlfriend, and the uncle inside. The uncle switches gears and tries to calm things down, flashing the money for his feature. Then he casually asks Savage about jewelry. And the moment Savage started showing off his chains, the uncle pulls out a gun and announces a robbery. The uncle threatened to kill him and his girlfriend right there if he didn't cooperate. But Savage, being that real hood gangsta, plays along at first, pretending to comply. And when the Unc moved in to take his chain, Savage acted fast, locking up Unc's arms and wrestling him to the floor. The gun drops, and now it's a fight for survival. Savage is yelling for his girlfriend to grab that gun and just shoot him. So, shaken but determined, this chick picks up the gun and fires twice, bop bop, into the uncle's back. But instead of going down, he's in fight or flight mode, pulling out another weapon that he'd stashed. He aims the laser at her head, ready to kill. She runs, 2 shots miss her. Savage is fighting to hold this guy down. And that's when Savage remembered something chilling. His son is asleep in the other room. So, desperate, he begged the uncle to just leave. But this uncle's not quitting. He's yelling for the guys outside to just shoot through the door, as bullets would rip through the walls, luckily hitting no one. Savage tells his girlfriend to finish this guy, but she hesitated under fire. Instead, she fires back at the door twice, which scares the attackers outside into running. So with the uncle still inside, Savage tells her again, please finish him. She's shot, bam! But the bullet hit Savage in the elbow, breaking his arm. Man, he shifted a bit, so she had a clearer shot this time, and tells her to just fire again. And this time she hits the uncle. Yet Unc crawls towards a gun, refusing to give up. But Savage manages to grab that weapon and empty the clip. Finally, the uncle gives up and starts begging for his life now. Savage, being a gentleman, didn't kill him. He just left him bleed on the floor, grabbed his family, and rushed to the hospital. The uncle later died. But Savage was cleared of all charges, as that shooting was ruled in self-defense. So Savage survived that night, but this next move put him in even more danger. He goes on Vlad TV and gives a chilling play-by-play of what just happened, bragging that he left the uncle to die. When asked if he feared retaliation, Savage basically said this.
I mean, are you at all concerned that his people are going to try to come back?
They for sure might do what they do, but I'm going to get active. That's all it is. And it is what it is. It's on the floor. It'll be smoke forever.
He decided to use the incident as a promo for his career, doubling down by posting pictures of himself standing in a bloody crime scene with the caption, "Too much motion." Yeah, but less than 4 hours after posting that tweet, BTB Savage was smoked. He uploaded the photos to X on March 30th, 2023, and right after, Savage calls his mom scared for his life. He said that he felt someone was setting him up. And immediately informed her that he was about to catch a flight out of the city till things cooled off for a while. However, on his way to the airport, barely 2 hours after he posted that bloody crime scene photo, gunmen opened fire on his SUV, spraying it with bullets, killing him. And after that, the killer would go back and burglarize his home, committing the same robbery that landed him in that position. June 5th, 2018 was supposed to be a night of celebration for a tight-knit group of young men who considered themselves brothers. I mean, that's how it all started, before everything turned into a nightmare of bloodshed. Jacksonville rapper Kenyatta Bullard, aka Yungeen Ace, wanted to do something special for his closest circle. He suggested they all go out for a nice dinner to mark the good things happening in their lives. His biological brother, Trevon Bullard, nicknamed Quan Quan or 2X, had just graduated from Ridgeview High School in Clay County a week earlier. Another close friend, Royal Devon Smith Jr., better known as 23, was celebrating his birthday that same day. Then there was Jacoby Deshad Groover, who went by 4, someone Ace considered a brother as well. Normally, this kind of public outing wasn't something they often did, and given the environment some of them were tied to, filled with rivalry and violent feuds, they knew how dangerous it might be. But this was a special occasion, and Ace wanted to bring everyone together to celebrate. So the plan was set. Everyone dressed up, heads over to Wasabi Japanese Steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida. Ace would document the moment on Instagram, sharing pictures and videos of them on their way to enjoy the night. When they get to the parking lot with other friends and family, the mood was nothing but joy. And from the evening into night, the energy stayed positive. Good food, drinks, great company. But outside, some of their ops were lurking. Ace and his brothers, now caught in the vibe of the night, were seriously lacking. And they let their guard down. Those ops could have stormed the restaurant and sprayed the place with bullets, but they didn't. They were patient, calculated, and their focus was only on 4 people: Ace, Quan Quan, 23, and 4. No one's after innocent relatives nor friends. So by 10:30 p.m. after dinner's done, the group gets into the car and drives off, heading toward Town Center Parkway near I-295. Inside the vehicle, the brothers started a lighthearted argument about where to go next. Ace wanted to meet his girlfriend, who was eating nearby, while the others wanted to keep the celebration going and link up with some female friends. But about 20 to 25 minutes later, around 10:53 p.m., their car stops at a red light, and as Ace reaches for his phone, like ready to call his girlfriend, a bullet rips through his hand, knocking the phone away. Beside him, another car opens fire, spraying bullets like it's hot sauce on a plate of wings. Metal, seats, bodies are all torn apart as gunfire pours into this vehicle. Ace, realizing what's happening, instinctively reaches across from the passenger seat, trying to shield 23 from the chaos, all while taking hits himself. Ace eventually manages to get the door open, and both he and 23 fall to the ground. 23's badly wounded, can't move. Ace crawls along the pavement, managing to call his girlfriend for help. This guy was shot 8 times. 23 took about 5 bullets. Quan Quan was hit 3 times, 1 to the head, and 4 was struck roughly 12 times. Bleeding out on the concrete, his girlfriend rushes to the scene before an ambulance even arrives, finding bystanders recording on their phones instead of helping, because that's where we're at today. However, when paramedics finally showed up, only 2 are still alive, Ace and 23, and after treatment, only Ace survived. His 3 brothers ended up dead. In the first week of September 2013, Chirac's up in flames, crazy gang violence sweeping through the streets. And one of those caught in the smoke was local rapper J Money. Now, J Money, real name Jerome Wood, wasn't just connected to gang life, this guy was a major player in it. Those who knew him often described him as a bully, aggressive, and an enforcer. In short, J Money's a name that carries both respect and fear, cause homie was a real demon. He was believed to be from the infamous O-Block area in Chicago and had ties to big names like Lil Durk, Chief Keef, Lil Reese, and the late King Von. And as a member of the Black Disciples faction, Jay lived in the middle of constant violence, but he wouldn't shy away from it either. In fact, he openly declared war on his enemies, even wearing outfits that made his intentions clear. On one of his jerseys, we got GDK, an abbreviation for Gangster Disciple Killer. Like, the message was obvious. If you're in GD, crossing paths with J Money could cost you your life. But what Jay didn't know was that his own life was about to be cut short. Because on September 2nd, 2013, a woman, whose name is withheld in reports, called him asking for a ride. And J Money picks her up around 10:05 a.m. in a white 2007 4-door Hyundai Sonata, while another man joins the ride. But unknown to J Money here, someone had already set a deadly plan in motion. The excuse for the ride was simple. The woman needed to go pick up her laundry, and everything kind of seemed normal at first. She then calls him again later to come back and pick her up on the 6600 block of South Rhodes Avenue in the West Woodlawn neighborhood. And he does. But someone else was nearby, waiting for the perfect moment to make a move. Jay would walk to the trunk to help this woman load her laundry. And then she went back inside her home to grab her purse. So while that's happening, the male passenger in the Hyundai noticed something that didn't feel right. He remembered seeing this silver prime-colored Chevy Impala with two men inside earlier, when they were driving in traffic. He even got a good look at the driver, an African-American with long dreadlocks and a baseball cap, while the passenger seemed to be trying to stay out of sight. Fast forward to the moment J Money's at the trunk. That same passenger spotted that very same Impala parked at the end of the street near the corner of 67th and Rhodes. And in that moment, it's starting to look like they'd been followed. But why? The time's around 2 p.m., and inside the apartment, the woman later tells investigators she was grabbing her purse when she suddenly hears multiple gunshots. When she ran outside, the Hyundai was gone. Then she looked toward the side of the building and saw J Money lying on the ground, bleeding from gunshot wounds. In a desperate attempt to save him, she began performing CPR. Meanwhile, the male passenger inside the car said that he also heard the shots, and at that point he claimed he panicked, jumped into the driver's seat, and sped off, leaving J Money behind. He tells investigators that he saw Jay collapse and then try to get back up and run, but the shooter chased him into a nearby parking lot and fired again. J Money instantly died of a gunshot wound to the head. And as for his ops, they clowned him on social media, saying they'd finally put the demon to sleep. July 13th, 2021. Another Chirac rapper meets an early grave due to street violence, and we're talking about none other than Lil Kevo 069. Now, Lil Kevo drops the music video for one of his viral hits, but what he doesn't realize is that not all fame is good fame. In fact, the attention he got from that song would ultimately set the stage for his own death. Because Lil Kevo, real name Kelvin Smith, wasn't just an artist. This guy was affiliated with a Chicago gang called Brick Squad, a crew tied to the 69th Street area. One of their biggest rivals would be the infamous O Block, a faction that had been at the center of Chicago's street wars. Then there's OTF, a crew that gained nationwide attention thanks to Grammy-winning rapper Lil Durk. So in this attempt to take shots at his enemies, Lil Kevo decided to keep a controversial Chicago rap tradition alive. With drill dominating the city's sound, where dissing rivals, glorifying violence, and mocking the dead is common, Kevo leaned in all the way, dropping a track called BDK Freestyle Part 2. And if you're paying attention so far, you know what this song's about because BDK stands for Black Disciple Killer. This track was a direct insult to members of the Black Disciples, the same group many of Lil Kevo's rivals were tied to. The whole purpose of that track was to pour gas on an already raging fire between him and his ops. And Kevo, man, didn't hold back. He took aim at their dead homies, openly mocking the murders, specifically name-dropping King Von and Lil Durk's dead brother, D-Thang. I mean, the track made it clear Lil Kevo wanted all that smoke, and it became an instant hit. But just 1 week after releasing that and filming the music video, Kevo's dead. On that day, Kevo's on the 7000 block of South Normal Avenue around 5:15 p.m. when someone fires 16 shots aimed his way, with at least 12 hitting him. His body was massacred, turned into an example for anyone bold enough to troll BD's dead homies, letting them know that they'll end up lying in a grave right beside him. It's November 15th, 2017. Pennsylvania rapper Lil Peep does not die from a crime, not even street violence, but from ODing on drugs while aboard his tour bus in Tucson, Arizona, just before he was set to perform the Rock nightclub. This 21-year-old artist, celebrated as a pioneer of emo rap, was discovered unresponsive around 9 p.m., and toxicology reports later say that his death was an accidental overdose, caused by a deadly mix of fentanyl and alprazolam, also known as Xanax. And now you're probably wondering where the hell was his team when he was taking those pills, right? Earlier that day, Peep had been active on social media, posting content that now feels chilling in hindsight. He uploads this concert photo on IG, captioned,
"When I die, you'll love me."
And another image showing pills on his tongue with the words, "F*** it." Plus, in a video recorded earlier in El Paso, Texas, his speech sounded noticeably slurred. Nevertheless, Peep spent part of the afternoon in a back lounge of the tour bus with two young fans, Nick Dowd and Mariah Bonds, smoking potent cannabis dabs. The area's littered with drug paraphernalia. We got rolling papers, lighters, marijuana. Bonds later bragged about getting him high as but police later cleared her of any wrongdoing. And despite signs of Peep not feeling well, nobody on the bus nor his team ever checked up on him. At around 8:45 p.m., his tour manager, Steve Paul, tried waking him up for the show, but found him unresponsive and called 911. Responders get there quickly, but CPR attempts fail, and Peep is pronounced dead on the scene. Footage from the documentary Everybody's Everything later revealed Peep had been unconscious on the bus for nearly 5 hours, from daylight into night, without anyone checking on him, fueling a lot of criticism over possible neglect. So after his death, Peep's mom, Liza Womack, filed lawsuits against First Access Entertainment, accusing the company of negligence, and rightly so. She claimed the team, including tour manager Belinda Mercer and CEO Sarah Stennett, allowed and even enabled his drug use by pushing him to perform, despite clear physical and mental decline. Stennett was accused of offering him Xanax over text, though she denied ever providing drugs. Peep's brother, Oscar, also firmly believed the OD wasn't intentional, pointing out that Peep was in good spirits about his career. He had just dropped his debut album, Come Over When You're Sober Part 1, 3 months earlier, meaning there's gonna be more parts, and was doing great, music-wise. However, his social media activity that day hinted at something else, man. And even though his mother won that lawsuit, his death brought an end to a youngster that was gonna change the path on the rap scene. On the night of November 1st, 2022, Kirsnick Kari Ball, better known as Takeoff, from the Grammy-nominated rap group Migos, spent what would be his last few hours at a private party inside 810 Billiards and Bowling in downtown Houston, Texas. Now he's there with his uncle and fellow Migos member Quavo, celebrating with about 40 people. The event's hosted by Jay Prince Jr., the son of Rap-A-Lot founder Jay Prince. Things wrapped around 1 a.m., but the crowd just didn't want to leave, and they hung around outside, not knowing a murder's about to go down. So for context, Takeoff was raised by his mom in Lawrenceville, Georgia. He started making beats and developing rhythms in the 7th grade, but didn't really start producing music professionally until 2011, when he was joined by his uncle Quavo and cousin Offset to form the rap group Migos. In 2013, Migos takes off with a viral hit, Versace, a record that was later remixed by Drake. And from there, the group honed its sound with mixtapes and guest spots on songs with rapper Gucci Mane and singer Justin Bieber, before releasing their first studio album, Young Rich Nation, in 2015. They collectively earned 2 Grammy nominations, one for rap performance for the single Bad and Bougie, and another for the 2017 rap album Culture. They also got the ASCAP Vanguard Award in 2018 for the streaming success of that track hit Motorsport, featuring Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. But as successful as this group was, their downfall began in 2020, when Takeoff was accused in a civil lawsuit of sexual battery and assault. He could have been prosecuted, but before he could even make any court appearances, he's murdered. Earlier that night, around 7 p.m., Takeoff and Quavo stopped by celebrity jeweler Johnny Dang's shop to get some jewelry cleaned. And this surveillance footage here likely shows the last moments Takeoff was seen alive, as he browsed around checking out some diamonds. Now, at around 2:30 a.m. the following morning, a high-stakes dice game leads to an argument involving Quavo and some others, including a man named Michael Prince. The situation gets heated, and then, out of nowhere, gunfire breaks out. Takeoff, who wasn't even a part of this argument, ended up being hit twice, one in the head, one in the torso, with the bullet lodging in his arm. He died right there at the scene. Surveillance footage later showed the chaos, with people running and Quavo frantic while trying to help Takeoff as everyone else is scattering. A nurse nearby heard the shots and ran over, checked his pulse, but it was too late. His eyes had already rolled back. But more disturbingly, Takeoff's last Instagram story was a photo of himself lighting up, tagged with the song Stop Breathing by Playboi Carti. And believe us when we say, this only added to the many twists of conspiracy theories surrounding his death, making us wonder if his death was truly an accident.